I believe that there should be encounters where I'm like, no, that there's no world in which that's a TPK. That's just not what that should be. If it goes south, if it goes a different way, then there should be, back to the preparing to fail idea. There's going to be another outcome.
Like I've had my players get captured. They've
Sure.
been. I have a plan if they fail Tomb of Annihilation, because I want to go into Vecna or the Vecna book.
Yep.
Which the premise for the start of that is regardless
That you
of how
have done that, right?
like with the Vecna book, like the start of it is the players are the answer to the one to the important plot people's wish. So the wish spell summons the players.
Right.
And I was like, well, I was like, even if they die, I can have that. And now they have a separate revenge for the big bad guy of Tomb of Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
yeah, the only time players like TPKs are on the table is if the players do something ridiculously dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, if and it's never ever, well, in my experience it's never one thing. I think it's bad game design if, like, and sometimes the only time that I ever am a little bit internally frustrated with my players is when they act in such a way that they don't understand how I design the world. Like, sometimes players will fall into the trap of acting like, if I open that door, I'll die, right? Or if I open that chest, I could die. And it's like, why would you
No,
ever think that's the case? Like, that would be terrible game design.
like unless you're specifically running like Tomb of Annihilation,
Yeah.
there's a whole MacGuffin in the tomb
Yep.
that will lead you to dying.
Yeah.
But it's very well signaled. It's actually how my first party I ran, because Tomb of Annihilation was the first campaign book I ran back in 2017 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the players had plenty of chances to die, and I wasn't as good of a DM because I was a brand new.
Yep.
To where now, if it happened, I'd probably do work something out. But I also think the players that I would have now aren't dumb enough.
Well,
But it's
it's
like
definitely,
a
there's an
single chest
experience
isn't going to
factor.
kill you either.
There's an experience factor too. Well, and I think one of the critical role deaths was aligned to something like that, where it's like, yeah, opening the chest did, but that was only after, like, let's see, doing the combat, kind of losing track of yourself, not properly healing, definitely didn't rest, certainly didn't have anybody check for traps, and then you did that. It's like, look how many mistakes were made. That's fair, actually. Like, you kind of lost track. Like if I'm running a new group, especially, or even just not even a new group, like if I'm running a new dynamic, like maybe there's some experienced players but they haven't played together, and it's early on in a campaign and somebody hits the ground, or somebody drops to zero. If a round goes by and I'm not seeing people motivated by that, if it's early on in the game, in the campaign, I'm gonna call it out. I'm gonna educate them, because it's important to know what their choices mean. But the most common way that I have characters die off in my games is later in the campaign. Like, let's move to like level 10, right? And I'll watch it. I can usually predict it, right? Because once somebody goes down, if you are not immediately jumping on that, stuff can roll bad, stuff can fall the wrong way so fast. So
Especially
fast.
if you set a precedent, because I generally do with my players is I'm gonna, if it's a bandit captain and he sees you falling
Exactly.
up and down, he's gonna finish you off. Versus I've had it where even at lower levels, the wolf just tries to drag the unconsciously dying person
Oh, Hoff,
into
you're
the
totally
woods.
right. Yeah, it
And
is.
when you introduce something like that, they're like, oh crap, that Bob the cleric's not just laying there, he's being dragged off.
Yep. Yeah,
But if my
exactly.
players, if unless it's like big boss encounter, this is a big story ending
Yeah.
or something like that. It's like if one of the players dies something dumb, there's always a way to easily bring him back in.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it where I can't remember the specifics, but the one character died and he really liked his Aarakocra monk. And I was like, well, let's, talk out of character and say, hey guys, do you want to go on this, try to figure out a way to bring them back? And in
Sure.
the meantime, they were in the Underdark, funnily
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, here's a Dwargar barbarian to play for a handful of sessions while you go and do this task for the Dwargar so
Sure.
that they raise your friend.
Yep. Yeah, I'll do that too. We actually have somebody in our campaign that's like, well, it's gotten worse every time because it happened a couple of times. So there's been like lingering effects and things get trickier, and it's like, there's debate about, is this even really worth it? But if that's going to happen, if they're going to spin off into like sort of a little mini arc, an adventure to do it, I also make sure that there's ramifications in the world for them doing it. Like when it happened most recently, and they were like 14th level when it happened, so they've got some abilities and they can teleport around and they can find somebody somewhere, a cleric, to give them the spell they need. But they were on a job and they abandoned it. So like they were basically sort of building a relationship with this sort of crazed artificer, and it's like, that's shot, that's done. Like you abandoned this thing and now she's an enemy, right? Now this is shifted into a new and basically that whole plot line was dropped, right? And then the ramifications happened for that. So I think as long as there's some sort of consequences that keep it sort of verisimilitudinous, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this vibe check, or this passes
God,
the
my
vibe
players
check.
say that all the time. They don't ask what do I see? They're like, what's the vibes of this
What's
place?
the vibes?
And I'm like, well,
Such a
that's
tough
actually
question.
my wife's always like, what's the vibe check?
Yeah.
I was
You
like,
need to,
that's better than saying I roll perception when I want an investigation check.
sure. Or even they just need to, I don't know, one of the best thing that players can do is when it's perception stuff, like ask more pointed questions, even creatively. Like the vibe check is an interesting one. I don't hear that very often, but definitely like, hey, can I roll perception? Is usually just like, can you tell me something about this? And I'm thinking something, but I'm not communicating it. Even if it's like, hey, hey, DM, like, what's my sense if I look around, like, how sure am I that there are like dead bodies nearby? Like, oh, that's an amazing perception check. I can tell you exactly that answer. Or maybe I'll just give you the information because it's such a good question. I think
I
there are
feel
things like that that can land on the vibe without us trying to have to provide it. But.
And I feel bad because my one player, she's a monk, and she'll always be like, "Can I roll a investigation check or a perception check
Yeah.
for like she wanted to see what this cube, like if there's anything special about this cube." And I was like, "You don't really need to roll. It's a stone cube. You can roll, but the story stays the same."
Right.
And that's where you'll get somewhere. It's like, I just do a perception check, and it's like, well, what are you doing with that? You're checking for traps, but how are you checking for traps?
Right. It's
Because
sort of like,
otherwise it just
it's like
minimizes that.
It's like players trying to will something into existence, where they're like, if I just look hard enough, I can find like a trap door, or I can find like a secret thing. And it's like, sometimes most of the time, actually, there's just nothing there, no matter what feeling you have. And that's ultimately, that's better than sort of what's the word for like the teleporting ogre, the quantum ogre, like just kind of moving things to be in front of whatever the players happen to do is, short-term wins for long-term losses, right?